I have a little game for you today. I have been recording the muff punts from this week, and I want you to see if you can catch every muff punt mentioned from this last weekend. Drop it in the comments, and we're going to see how well you pay attention. See if you get it right, because there's a shocking amount. So
I can't count. Welcome back to the James and Dame Show. I'm Josiah.
And I'm Will.
And I'm Will. And we're going to go over week 4 stuff, kind of recap that. I've been looking on social media and stuff and trying to find either the funny stuff or the interesting stuff. So like fun facts and funny stuff. So do you want to go to Thursday night where I thought the Cowboys might actually lose?
Yeah, that was an interesting game. They won,
but at what cost?
Yeah, we expected them to win. It's just
how they won was
the fashion was It wasn't great. Like watching it, it was like this is actually a close game. You look at the stats, it really doesn't tell the story.
No,
because it looks like the Cowboys actually stopped the run game, actually had a run game. Offense seemed to move all right. But you look back and, there were 11 penalties against Dallas for 89 yards, and they were 3 for 10 on third downs. Some just mistakes. The issue, I guess, for the Giants was all of their points came from their kicker, which is however many straight weeks of a team having only points from their kicker.
It's the second major game, I think.
Might actually be the third. Because week 2 we had the Commanders. Anyways, against the Giants, actually, ironically.
Ironically.
Neighbors with a good game, 12 catches, 115 yards. It was a really gross game.
It was a very unpleasant game to watch, for certain.
Especially as a Cowboys fan. So, Cowboys, you moved to 2-2. Your playoff odds are a little better, but do you really feel better about your team?
No, I would not.
You should.
No offense, but your offense and defense do not inspire hope for me. So, however, on the positive side of things, the Cowboys, the Prescott has beaten the Giants 13 straight times. So, as your New York Giants, there's your father. You are the father. Giants, Neighbors. You see that nasty route by him where he made one of those cornerbacks go sliding a little bit?
I've seen a few. That would have been against, I believe, Andrew Booth, if I recall.
I think it was on Booth. Yeah.
Early in the game, who eventually got subbed out. Yeah.
Neighbors is literally a Lamborghini in a broken down house. He is the epitome of that meme. Like, he is the only good thing that is coming from the Giants right now. It's kind of sad.
And then to wrap up, obviously, just some negative news for the Cowboys because, you can never have them have too much hope, even though there really wasn't much to come away with. You had
Sorry. What is it?
You obviously had the Micah Parsons and Lawrence injury.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
It was said that Micah's was not as severe, or it was the lesser of the two.
Lesser of the two? Okay.
But it is still...
But it's an injury.
Yeah.
So he'll be... how long will he be out?
I didn't see
weeks?
numbers as far as how long, but I do believe Micah's going to at least try and play this week.
So, then moving on.
Yes, moving on to... this one isn't going to take too long to go over. I have a game for you. Don't look at any stats. look away from the stats. I guess for you as well. I want you to name which quarterback this was from the Saints-Falcons game, given their stat line. 28 for 36, 239 yards, and an interception. And I can give
Cousins.
I'll give you a hint as to what the other one is. 21 for 35, 238 yards, and an interception.
First one's Cousins, the second one's Carr.
No, it's the other way around.
Other way around? Okay. They both didn't do anything, from what I've heard.
They were similar. Derek Carr had a few more completions, but similar in attempts, only 1 yard off, and both had an interception, no touchdowns.
Sounds about right.
Very similar stat lines.
Atlanta won without scoring a touchdown, so that's like the second game this year with that kind of situation. Yeah, Atlanta capitalized on 2 defensive touchdowns. Yeah.
They had the muff punt recovered for a touchdown, and they had a tipped pick 6, I believe it was, from Troy Anderson.
Okay.
And you look on the other side of the ball, the Saints, all touchdowns on the ground, 2 of which going to Taysom Hill. Love that, man.
The Saints did not go marching in. Yeah. Pitts wasn't even doing anything. 0 targets, 0 receptions, 0 yards.
Yeah, it turns out he either is still not being utilized properly or he just actually is not that guy. I guess we'll see the rest of the year, but
I was hopeful for him. Interesting stat line from the Saints side. I don't know how accurate this is, but this is the Saints are the first team since 1983 to lose a game where they were scoring 24 plus points and gave up 0 offensive touchdowns. So, yeah, that's kind of bad. I'm assuming 1983 was that Bears year where they won that. No, maybe I'm thinking 86. When did the Bears win that Super Bowl where it was all defense? I don't remember.
May have. But yeah, it was kind of an ugly game. Offense was not doing a lot. Again, Saints more relying on
86.
the run.
Sorry.
It was 86.
Yeah.
But essentially, Saints scoring with under a minute, and then just have up a point. All you have to do is keep the Falcons away from field goal range, and you commit a defensive pass interference. 30-yard penalty puts that was on Paulson Adebo. That was with 30 seconds left in the game, and that set up Younghoe Koo for a 58-yard game winner.
Younghoe Koo was kicking. He was kicking that day.
He had a good game, but yeah, it was not a super interesting game.
No, it was kind of underwhelming, if I'm going to be completely honest.
Yeah, for a nail biter, kind of surprising. Moving on though, Rams-Bears. Oof.
No, that's the one I didn't really care much for. I did say that the Bears were going to win. I don't know if you said that or not.
I also, we both had.
We both had the Bears winning. I don't know. I just felt weird to have the Rams winning that game. Also, just history. But I believe this was the game where DJ Moore got his first touchdown from Williams, I believe. Or was that the last game?
It would have been the last game because the
last game it would have been a Dunze, yeah. So, there wasn't really much from this game, if I want to be completely honest. I couldn't really find anything. So, unless you have something.
I have a few things on this one. We'll keep it quick because, again, it wasn't a super interesting game. Also, one I couldn't find on a TV. We had Chicago. It's their first game with a rusher over 50 yards. With their leading rusher over 50 yards with DeAndre Swift, who actually had a very nice day.
I had him on fantasy.
Yeah.
So I had a very great day.
Yep. 93 yards, a touchdown, plus 72 receiving yards. He was also the leading receiver. But
interesting.
They had no turnovers. Swift carried defense and special teams, which brings me to my segment of my first person. I'm giving my flowers to 3 people each week, and this is my first. and that's going to go to Tory Taylor, who is the rookie punter out of Guess the School. It's special teams.
It's not Nebraska.
Nope, but you're close.
Iowa?
He is an Iowa kicker.
Dang it.
He's the rookie kicker out of Iowa. He had 5 punts, 3 inside the 20, only 1 for a touchback, and his long was 66 yards.
Jeez.
And that was the punt that downed. That was at the end of towards the end of the fourth that downed this Matthew Stafford and the Rams inside their own 10, which inevitably put enough pressure for Stafford to throw a pick. He was doing work because, again, the Bears didn't do a lot on offense.
No, they did a lot of defense, though.
They did a lot of defense and special teams. They did a good job in the field position battle. So, Tory Taylor, you get my first set of flowers.
Flowers.
You get flowers.
Next game?
Next game.
Colts and Steelers. Justin Fields got turned into a linebacker there towards the end of the game. With that wide stance, the legs spread out.
He's turning into Jalen Hurts.
What? It was a very close game. Joe Flacco came off the bench and got the Colts a win.
Against the Steelers.
Against the Steelers.
He knows how to do that.
He knows how to do it. Steelers actually were close to getting that lead back towards the end, I believe. They had it on the last drive. The only reason why they didn't win was because the center snapped the ball into Fields' helmet and therefore led to Fields turning into a linebacker there for a second. Good job, Joe Flacco. Congrats. You got to win against the Steelers. Salty Steeler fans all online about how, what was it? They were talking about a post like, the Flacco has beaten the Steelers once again. And a bunch of the Steeler fans were very upset. They were like, Flacco doesn't own us. He just has a game above us or whatever it is. Because like the overall record was like 15-14, I think it was, between Steelers and Ravens. I'm like, it doesn't matter. You still lost.
Yeah, but he's also done it with
Flacco. I meant Flacco. Flacco versus the Steelers. Flacco versus the Steelers. I just said Ravens because, that's where I first...
That's where most of it came from.
Yeah. Steelers fans, stop being so salty. It's one game.
Yeah, they will never do that. It's every time. It's every time. We've gone the first 3 weeks without it because they've been winning, but...
Yeah, because they've been going full Yinzers mode. I could hear urinating tree all the way from here.
Just to... you look at the game, I think Pittsburgh should have won this game.
Oh, definitely. They just messed up at the end. It was one play that threw them all off, so...
It really wasn't. They were sloppy. They had 2 turnovers. Both... One was a Justin Fields strip sack.
Interesting.
And the other one was just George Pickens carelessly... He was breaking a tackle, and he just had the ball way out here, and I lost it. And that was within, I think, the red zone. So, sloppy play, some poor decisions, and just... I will say Justin Fields had his best game. I feel like this is more like what you were looking for out of him. 22 for 34, 312 yards, a touchdown, not to mention his, how many yards was it on the ground? 55 yards,
something like
that. He had a good game.
He had an overall good game. It's just...
the rest of the defense kind of slipped up. And
they were going against the Colts with a battered defense, I believe. I thought they lost a couple pieces on defense.
Yeah, Colts defense has not been great.
They've not been up to par with recency. They've had a decent defense for like the last 5 years or so. Then their offense has been falling flat. But this year, it's like slowly shifting the other way around. But yeah.
And then obviously...
Unfortunate.
Richardson again going out. His was with a hip pointer. I haven't seen an official...
I haven't heard anything about it either. So hopefully he can come back in eventually. But right now we're going to deal with some Flacco.
Woo. Love me some
Flacco. More Flacco. Let's go.
Especially when it's not on the Browns.
Yeah.
On to Minnesota.
I believe it was 28-0 at half. I believe
it was 28-7 at
20,
half.
28-7
at
but
one point.
Yeah.
28 at one point.
So, Minnesota Vikings, very close. A lot closer than it needed to be towards the end. I mean, you still got the win, but it was a little close for comfort. No, what was it? So Jordan Love wore a Brett Favre jersey into the stadium and proceeded to play like Brett Favre with like, what was it, 4 TDs and like 3 interceptions or whatever it was overall.
4 TDs, yeah, 3 interceptions.
It was a sloppy day from Jordan Love.
It very much, it was kind of all over. I've heard mixed things. A lot Packer fans kind of more optimistic, as it's just like, oh, he's just coming back, which is true. And he had a lot of yards. Like, he carved up a Brian Flores defense, but again, I'm kind of skeptical as to how much of that is just the Vikings getting complacent for most of the second half.
Yeah, they weren't super worried, but towards the end, I was like, oh my gosh, they're actually going to blow this. Because I figured the Vikings were just letting off on the gas because they just didn't really want to try until like, oh, the Packers actually have the chance to win this. We need to actually focus. I'm assuming it was that, but I don't know. That was a game where I saw more highlights than I did actual gameplay.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Other takeaways, obviously, McKinney getting his 4-4.
Oh, yeah, McKinney. He's
4 straight games with an interception.
Interception. He's doing wonders for that Green Bay secondary.
Let's see. We had Jordan Addison return.
Yeah, Jordan Addison's back. Yeah, didn't he get a touchdown? I believe it was.
He and Justin Jefferson both got some really good play.
Oh, yeah.
Darnold's having himself a really fun time out there. He's got all the weapons. Imagine when they get T.J. Hawkinson back.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, they were. Vikings are going to start actually winning a lot more convincingly.
But yeah, other than that, final statements. There were 7 turnovers between both teams in that game. One of which coming off of a muffed punt. That was one of the points for the Packers that allowed them to get even closer in that game. I think that was in the fourth quarter. It was, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Some games are weird. But moving on to
a very boring game up in New York.
Given the weather wasn't great.
Yeah, the weather wasn't amazing. So it was a 10-9 victory for the Broncos. They won with, what was it, -7 offensive yards or whatever it was.
I believe it was -7
passing yards. It was -7 something. And then
at one point,
it was at one point. There is a rumor going around, specifically from Boomer Eason's son. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Said there's beef between Saleh and Rodgers right now. Like there's some tension between the two. I'm assuming that's just more of it was a terrible day for the Jets. It was hard to play in the rain. It's what happens when you play on a terrible field.
Yeah, I also wonder part of it is like, what, how much are they going off of like the small things? Mm-hmm. How much of that is blowing stuff out of proportion?
Yeah, I mean, people are like, oh, he pushed Saleh off him. That means he hates him. Not always. Sure, Aaron Rodgers has a bit of an ego. I will admit that, but
yeah, I'm pretty sure he came out and said that he just isn't that sort of person when it comes to being expressive. Rodgers, I believe, said
yeah,
that.
he's a very very monotone person when it comes to celebrations.
Yeah, but looking actually in it, Nick's 60 passing yards, not great. The takeaway for Broncos though, 2-0 when you have your leading rusher over 50 yards.
So run the ball.
Yeah, actually know how to run the ball. Also, they got to Rodgers 5 times, 5 sacks.
Yeah.
So defense obviously doing
defense did
well.
a lot better. Yeah.
They're looking They're playing well. They might have a really good defense this year. And then for the Jets, I mean, it's a hard takeaway to get anything from this game. Breece Hall having under 10 yards on 10 carries was kind of surprising.
Yeah, I was going up against him in fantasy. I kept checking. I'm like, is it like bugged out or something? Like, is he not doing anything? No, he was just not doing anything productive. It was hard to play in that condition, so I'm not going to... I do have another thing, but it kind of ties into a different game as well.
All right, well, I'll wrap up my last thing, and I'll let you get to your point, which is just based off how the game ended, both teams missing field goals in the fourth quarter, especially later, including one of them being would have been a game-winning field goal for the Jets, but both each missing, and Broncos squeaking out that win. So
it was a bad day. So I don't know who it was. It was a Jets receiver, I believe. They got penalized for finger guns.
Was it Mike? I think it was Mike Williams.
I think it was Williams. It was a receiver. I didn't know who it was. So this is one of the small things that just tick me off when it comes to consistency with ref ball. So they'll call a 15-yard penalty on the Jets for Mike Williams doing the finger guns. But later that same day, I don't know, it comes up every week now, the Chiefs do the same thing and they don't get penalized for it. I believe it wasn't Pacheco. It's never Pacheco. Pacheco's not in right now. Who was it? Was it Rashid Rice? I believe it was.
Well, he got injured early, so that would have been...
It would have been someone else then. Well, maybe it was Worthy.
Probably.
Somebody on the Chiefs also did the finger guns and didn't get penalized.
Well, I think obviously the thing there is... it's not so much like... not even inconsistency. It was just a bad call against Williams because that is a very common celebration.
Yeah.
Most everyone does it. It's just a one-off instance of like...
Yeah, I know that everybody does it. It's just the only two I saw was those two.
Yeah.
I guess that's my issue is that if we're going to be very inconsistent about calling or if we're going to call something small like that, it's got to be league-wide. It can't be just one game. So I'm assuming that was just a referee being stupid, which is probably what happened.
It's just a bad call.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to sound like one of those people who just wants to hate on the Chiefs because I'm just frustrated with inconsistencies throughout the league. So, moving on anyways. Mm-hmm. We got Philadelphia visiting the Buccaneers. Hey, CJ. You said you were going to put the belt to them, right? What belt? In fact, Baker whipped out his own belt and whipped your ass with it. You got burnt again. He got burnt again. Like, the thing is that with CJ Gardner-Johnson, he likes to talk a lot of smack. I saw that comment before the game started, and obviously you have the history between him and Baker Mayfield. He is all talk, and he just never shows up in like important situations. There was a clip of him in the back, just watching one of the receivers for Tampa Bay drop the ball, and then he does the no good and everything. Even though that was the guy he was supposed to cover, he was probably about 10, 15 yards from that guy. So I don't know if it was the guy he was supposed to cover, but just seeing that in the background, like, yeah, I'm participating, guys. I did something. I don't know. I'm frustrated with Gardner-Johnson right now. It's annoying. I don't know.
I mean, it's classic defensive backs. They love to...
They like to talk a lot.
They do that all the time. People poke fun at them because they will celebrate even though they didn't do anything, and it's like, okay. But yeah, I kind of want to keep this one short because this game was just not...
It was a bloodbath.
No A.J. Brown, no Devonta Smith. Hurts was sacked 6 times. They muffed a punt. And then the only other thing is like your highlight was you blocked an extra point and returned it for 2. That was probably your best play. That and Saquon had a big run as he continues to do well. I mean, he only had 84 yards, but on only 10 carries, so he averaged 8.4, which is still ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the Buccaneers, big bounce back game. 4 receivers over 50 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Near 350 for Baker. So.
Oh, yeah. Baker was having a field day, picking apart that secondary, specifically Garner Johnson. Yeah, that's all I got for that game. But moving to the north just a slight bit, Cincinnati Bengals visiting the Panthers. That game was a lot closer than it needed to be, huh, Bengals?
Yeah, I mean, they got their first win.
I'm a little disappointed, not going to lie, because I thought maybe it was just the Bengals would finally wake up and actually smoke a team for once. That didn't really happen. I had Burrow on fantasy, just constantly looking back on it. I'm like, why are the Panthers at least a score down or tied with you right now? There's no reason for that. Don't get me wrong, the Panthers have been doing slightly better, but geez. I mean, was it Leggett had his first touchdown as well? So congrats to him. But it was a very interesting game. There wasn't much going on, but a little too close for comfort for Bengals fans. They're 1-3 now. They finally have a win.
Yeah, I mean, it's about time they got a win and then needed something in that category. But you still look at that game and it's, you won. You won by 10. Your offense looked pretty good. Your defense is the thing you have to worry about because there's no promise. You let Chuba Hubbard get 104 yards, and
Hubbard's been doing a lot.
I mean,
he's been doing a lot.
There's just a lot of question marks on that defense. Which, I mean, I know you're slightly banged up, but you still should be doing better than that. So I think it's probably looking at coaching there, but we'll have to see if the Bengals make any adjustments going forward, or if they continue to struggle, and we might see another off year for the Bengals. Moving on to Jacksonville, though.
Hey, Doug Peterson. Are you sure you're not worried about your job position after going 0-4?
He's getting a little toasty.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. The Jaguars have problems right now.
Oh, a lot of problems. With a QB who won't do anything, terrible scheming on offense. Defense is barely hanging in there. I don't know.
Line's not good.
The Texans weren't even doing great either. They were even struggling against the Jaguars. Or at least for a bit.
They were struggling. Stroud kind of came back and got that offense going. Collins is having another great game. God, if he's available at all in fantasy, I need to find him. 12 receptions, 150 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Again, he only has one game under 100 yards. It's against the Vikings. It's just Texans. Again, obviously it was closer, 24-20, with a game-winning touchdown late in the game. But yeah, Trevor's having a rough time. Again, I think he doesn't look good. O-line doesn't help. But you have the receivers and stuff. I think a lot still comes down to coaching. Trevor is going to have to take some blame, but again, you just paid him, so you have to make it work. And I think the key there is change of coaching has to be the move. But yeah, Jaguars choked away a lead because you had the lead going into the fourth, and you let it go.
Well, there it goes.
There it goes.
There it goes.
There it goes. But moving on, getting into that afternoon slate of games. Boy, where?
Niners. There wasn't much for that game. Niners beat the Patriots 30-13. I did get some injury update news for CMC. He has tendonitis in both Achilles. So now they're not even sure if he's going to show up, at least for a long time. So that's not good news for 49ers fans. I mean, you still have a solid running back in, is it Mason? Who it is? But other than that, I've been saying this for the past couple of years. CMC tends to have off years, whether he's injured or he just doesn't do anything. I said this was his off year, and people were calling me crazy. And here we are with an injured CMC. So, not saying that I was wishing for an injury. I'm just saying something bad's going to happen. It always happens, and I don't want it to happen, but it did again. So, prayers for CMC, honestly. I want to see him back on that field as soon as possible and healthy. But, yeah, that's all I got from that game. There wasn't really much going on for the Patriots side of the ball.
No, they've basically converted Brissett into a sack dummy while Drake May develops. Drake May sitting there going, yes, that is what a bad O-line will do to you. Yes, and he should have thrown the ball sooner. Yes,
and then he'll have to deal with said O-line very soon.
Hopefully they get it fixed before he has to get in there.
If you look at the Bengals, that doesn't happen. Anyways.
Yeah, 49ers look like they're back. Could be back on track. Their rocky start.
Yeah, they usually have a rocky start once in a while. Also depends on their injuries. Then going to Arizona, Commanders and Cardinals. Honestly, I can definitely see the Commanders winning the East this year. With how they're playing right now, they are playing a whole lot better than the Eagles or Cowboys right now.
Looks like they will likely have Rookie of the Year if things continue. Jaden Daniels has been very, very efficient.
Very efficient.
Through the first 4 weeks, only looking to seeming like he's getting better as the weeks go on.
I believe he had... Oh, no, I'm thinking of somebody else. Never mind. But Jaden Daniels, what is it? How many incompletions did he have this game? Because I know last game he only had a couple.
Incompletions, he only had 4. I also realized.
Okay, so a little bit more.
Missed point that I don't know. I forgot the Texans muffed a punt. That led to a Jaguars. That's actually what gave the Jaguars the lead. And I can't believe I forgot that. Anyways.
Back to your regular schedule program. Commanders are on track. Rookie of the Year. Probably winning the East if how well they're playing. Cardinals, on the other hand, you're going to have these down games. Don't beat yourself up. You're still working with Marvin Harrison Jr. He's only going to get better. Kyler Murray, he's also just he's good. I just don't know. Murray can be a great quarterback. He just doesn't perform very well sometimes. And it just kind of makes me doubt if he will ever continue to start for the Cardinals. I mean, he still has that contract and everything, but I don't know for how long. One of the only funny things that I've noticed on social media, there was a video of multiple people in a brawl in the stands, and multiple of those people were arrested. So that's like how many brawls so far this year? I've seen so many. There's only been like 5 or 6 so far within the past 4 weeks, which is crazy. That's a lot of brawls right away. So yay, I guess. I don't condone violence, but like, geez, racking up those brawl numbers. Do we have a stat line for how many brawls per game now? Brawls per week.
You can do that. Get on it.
I can probably look it up.
Keep track of that. Yeah, just Commanders doing everything Right. I mean, Cardinals obviously were having their struggles. They've had struggles kind of moving the ball sometimes. Third downs, they struggle getting the ball going. Defense kind of letting up. But look, again, Commanders doing everything right to help Jaden Daniels. Relying on the run game, they had 216 rushing yards. The line kind of kept them okay, and obviously the rest he makes up with his legs.
Mm-hmm.
And you got
he definitely does.
Receiving core that's been actually doing stuff. Terry's happy.
He's very happy.
Commanders are showing Patriots and the Bears, the Broncos how to do it right. So
yeah, I'm surprised it'd beat the Commanders of all those teams.
You should go with Kingsbury though. I mean, that's kind of why you bring him in.
Kingsbury. Yeah. All right. Going on to another pretty bad game. Browns versus the Raiders. There's a couple interceptions for the Raiders. Deshaun Watson still didn't play great, or at least better than the first couple weeks. However, there's speculation going around that Devontae Adams could be on the move. Pierce liked a post about Adams playing his last snap as a Raider, like the head coach, like on social media. Like the thing is that obviously recently social media has been a huge indication for like trades, tension in locker rooms. Like a lot of people tend to turn to social media as a means to just figure out what the heck is going on in the league. And if we continue on that trend, if this is holding out to be true, I would not be surprised if Adams does leave and ends up either going to Aaron Rodgers at the New York Jets or completely goes to a different team. Hopefully not a specific team I'm thinking of at the top of my head right now. But, you know.
Yeah. So I heard that there were some things. I get that social media has an impact and it can kind of hint at things. But for things as simple as someone liking a post, I take that with
the grain of salt.
It doesn't surprise me. Browns didn't play a full game. They don't tend to. Surprisingly, this week, like you mentioned, Deshaun played a little bit better, but his O-line failed him, which has been, like we mentioned with his contract, things are going to regress over the years. And I expected it to be the defense a little bit more. And obviously the defense I don't think is as good as it was last year.
Oh, definitely not.
But I'm surprised to see that it's the O-line that's struggling as much as it is. Because they
have a solid O-line for most part.
Yeah, but they did a poor job. They had a holding call that ruined a big play to Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
They had Deshaun Watson get popped a couple times because their right tackle just not blocking. It was not good.
I mean, I meant it in the sense of like in recency, the Browns have had a decent O-line. It's just recently it's not been up to par as.
Yeah, this year it's been
kind of bad. I mean, that entire team is pretty bad. So there's a couple players that shine, but overall it's not looking very promising. But moving on, KC visiting LA. So the Chargers did not score after the first quarter, if I heard that correctly.
I don't think they scored after their second drive. I think it was their second.
They had 10 points, so they had it scored twice.
Yeah. Second drive.
Oh, after. Oh, I thought you said during the second drive.
Okay. The first drive. Oh, what was it? I might mix this up. There was a fumble and an interception, and I forget the exact order of which one was which, but the Chargers scored, I believe, on the first two drives. Actually, I think one of the turnovers was later, and I don't think they capitalized on it. But the Chargers scored early, took a 10-point lead, and then couldn't do anything else, which
Yes.
I think comes a lot down to coaching,
Mm-hmm.
kind of just getting away from the game plan.
Yeah.
Sure.
Couple other things. Playing Mahomes will do something to you. Herbert has joined Lamar Jackson and I believe it was some other player. It might have been Josh Allen. Smashing their... No, they haven't played the Chiefs yet. It was someone else. But basically, 3 quarterbacks have smashed their helmet against something or have thrown said helmet during the game. And Herbert got a good smack out of that helmet. He crashed that thing into I think it was the bench or whatever it was. And something came off of that. So he was not very happy. Mahomes, I have to give you props for masking your failure. So that drive, that interception specifically by Mahomes, where Mahomes tried to tackle, I don't know who picked it off. Mahomes ends up injuring Rashid Rice on said interception. A couple of people were making fun. See, this is how Mahomes does it. He masks his failure into some other big news, so it gets covered over and people don't glare at that issue. And I'm like, that was just unfortunate. Hopefully Rice does get better. Still guilty about his off the field stuff, but
that's a really funny point because I heard some people make a very interesting point, which is you look at what's happened with Rashid Rice. He's looking at potentially getting, he might suffer or get a suspension at some point later on.
He should have had a suspension this season.
Well, here's the interesting thing for the Chiefs, though, is because it's been pushed back, he was allowed to get injured, so he's going to miss even more time because the NFL didn't punish him sooner. Because the reality is he's going to miss severe time. It is because it's what it looks like is it's a torn ACL, and so he's going to be out for a while. So that was a very interesting point, a very interesting perspective. It's like, oh yeah, NFL, he might have only missed one season or only a few games, but if you do that this injury doesn't happen.
Yep.
And so the Chiefs actually missed more Rashid Rice for that. So just an interesting perspective.
It was a perspective I saw online. I'm like, you know what? I understand where you're coming from, but also that was just an unfortunate injury.
Yeah, but I mean, you obviously hinted at it a little bit with Devontae Adams, but you're in a situation as the Chiefs. You lost Rashid Rice. You're out without Isaiah Pacheco, but your number one receiver is
out.
Now your number one receiver is Xavier Worthy. What do you do?
There have been rumblings about a Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes reunion, but we'll get there. Going on to the Bills and Ravens. Yeah, the Ravens were kind of stomping all over the Bills. People were very quick to turn on Josh Allen for what he did the first 3 weeks. I still think he's doing fine. It's just they went up an actual defense for once, and they kind of were not prepared for it. So the Ravens kind of picked the Bills apart. There were a couple drives where the Bills should have scored on something, or at least a field goal at the very least. That didn't happen. But the Ravens, 199 rushing yards, 1 receiving, 1 rushing touchdown for Derrick Henry. Unfortunate that he did not get the 200 rushing yards. But Derrick Henry is finally being used correctly, and he's showing numbers right away. So good for Baltimore. You finally moved up to 500, so you don't have to stress about losing more games in recent time. There wasn't much from that side. So
yeah, I mean, Lamar was efficient. I'm looking at what the defense did really well was really just up front. They pressured Josh Allen. They didn't allow him to run the ball as well. But it was Baltimore had 271 yards and Buffalo had 81, which means that Derrick Henry over doubled. Which, speaking of Derrick Henry, my second set of flowers, surprise, was almost 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, 200 rushing yards. He got over yards. 200 with his receiving. But yeah, he had himself a day, established himself quickly on an 87-yard touchdown on his first touch. Big game from him. That's 2 in a row. I mean, he took what he did last week and was like, I can do better. So,
as he should.
It was all around just a really good game from the Ravens, and the Bills trying to do what they can, but it was just
a little not too late.
Just not a fun time for them. Just was not a fun experience. But we can get on to Monday night.
Let's get the worst one out of the way. Titans visiting the Dolphins. Dolphins, you're just screwed. I'm sorry, you're done for. Your season's over. Like if this is what's gonna be like for the rest of the year, I would not be surprised. You still haven't led a game this year at all. The last time you've led a game was like 276 days ago, so that was a long time ago. Tyreek Hill was very upset at the coaching staff. He was seen, being a little upset on the sideline. On the other side, though, Titans, I don't know what you're doing with Levis over there, but can you keep those funny pictures coming? Because, this is hilarious that we have another one from him. He's, sitting on the bench, and he's, looks like he's about to poop his pants. He's like...
Well, that was an interesting thing. I couldn't find any details on it, but Levis actually left that game.
Yeah, he did leave the game
pretty early.
It was
Rudolph.
Yeah, Rudolph came in.
But yeah, I mean, this is more than anything. It just reaffirms that the Dolphins don't know how to run an offense without Tua.
Yep.
That they don't know how to run it. Tyler Huntley was under 100 yards passing. They just could not. Surprisingly, he somehow was still the leading passer with 96 yards. So, fun game. But Titans do have a good defense. Especially pass defense. I think that gets kind of overlooked by how Will Levis has played.
Agreed.
But no news so far as how Will Levis, if he's going to come back, where that's at. But yeah, it's just the Dolphins have no idea how to run an offense without Huntley.
They have not the slightest clue at all.
So,
but
you're either gonna have to find a more permanent replacement for Tua, or you're gonna have to hope that he sticks around.
If not, I'm okay with that, because with how many injuries he's suffered, Tua just needs to rest. It's not a joke anymore. It's more of a concern for his health at this point. So I'm hoping he can heal and
You can rest now too.
It's all over.
Yeah, and then so now wrapping up last week, we had this matchup, who is surprised defense just didn't exist.
Yeah, it's all offense.
It always is between.
It's always between these two, Seahawks and Lions. So I'm assuming this is your third flowers. Jared Goff, no incompletions, a receiving touchdown from Amon-Ra St. Brown. Sorry. He had a great day. I don't know what else to say for Jared Goff. That's probably the best performance in a regular season game in a while. Well, I guess this week, Jaden Daniels last week, but it's good to see something like that. So good for him.
I will say, you are right. He was my third flowers. My third set of flowers goes to Jared Goff. He had a perfect passer rating because, again, he did not have an incompletion. He had 18 for 18.
18 for 18.
For over 200 yards. And obviously, yards-wise, Geno Smith he still had himself a day with
Yeah.
almost 400.
Both quarterbacks had a great day because defenses don't exist in these matches.
Never.
It's a little disappointing because I thought the Seahawks would, somehow win this game because they always do for some reason against the Lions. But for once, we have the Lions winning. So
New coach?
Is it true? It's not Pete Carroll. So we'll see.
I mean, another part of it being that the Seahawks, 2 turnovers, an interception, and a fumble. The fumble coming from DK Metcalf.
Yes.
So those heavily impacted that. They also had a turnover on downs that towards the I think it was near the 2-minute warning on 4th and goal that really was not good. Because it was kind of just a throwaway, which is just not what you should be doing on 4th and goal when you're down 27-42.
But what do we know? So,
I mean, yeah, a lot of it was because they didn't have the offense set. They barely got the snap off. Nothing was ready, and
yeah, it was a pretty
call
rough.
a timeout. Like, I know
You got to do something. Come on.
I know you're trying to preserve those, but you can't pass up points like that. It was not.
It was not a great
pretty
day
at the end. They managed to get a safety out of it, but the safety didn't help. And it changed it from a 15-point game to a 13-point game. Congratulations.
Wow.
So, yeah, that kind of wraps up that. I guess it's week 4.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
We're flying through these weeks.
Flying through. We're on to week 5. Crazy.
It's crazy. But, I mean, if you got nothing else.
No, I give up my flowers, and hope you were counting.
I've lost count already. So I lost count I think the 3rd game in. So thank you all for joining us. We'll do some week 5 previews, looking at the next week, and then to look into the upcoming schedule, we'll be streaming the Cowboys and Steelers game on Sunday night. It will be a hard game to watch for him specifically, but also for me. Just not as much as him, apparently. So, I guess with that being said, we shall see you in the next video. See ya.
Bye.